All right, so you guys have sent us tons of articles about this upcoming Superman movie, and things seem a little heated online. Let's jump into this deep dive and figure out what's going on.
There's so much buzz
I
already.
know, right?
And we haven't even seen any footage.
Not a single frame. Okay, so first off, the title. It's officially Superman, not Superman. Legacy, like we originally thought.
Dropping legacy. That's a pretty big statement, isn't it?
Yeah. It seems like James Gunn is steering clear of that whole looking back thing. What do you think is behind that?
Well, Gunn said he wants a fresh start for the DC universe, not just continuing what came before, like a totally new direction.
To a clean slate.
Yeah.
Risky move.
Yeah.
Right. Considering, I mean, how some fans reacted to how the DC universe has been doing lately.
It's definitely a gamble.
Big time.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what it needs. Who knows? But speaking of mixed reactions, there are those rumors going around about test screenings.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are saying they were a disaster.
Total disaster, yeah.
Some people are saying franchise killing. How much do you think we should believe all that?
Well, you got to be careful with these insider leaks. Lots of this info is, well, it's unverified.
Right.
And actually, another source claims there haven't even been test screenings yet.
Oh, really?
It just shows how important it is to be, to be critical of what you see online, especially with entertainment news. Everybody wants the scoop.
For sure. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype.
Exactly.
But even if we take those rumors, the negative ones, with a grain of salt, there's still a ton of chatter online. A lot of people are upset about Henry Cavill not being Superman anymore. I mean, he was great.
Yeah, Cavill was fantastic.
He really owned the role.
He did. He really did. But now we've got David Corenswet. And it's funny, some people are saying he actually looks a bit like a young Cavill.
Oh, it's interesting.
And then there's Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I mean, she's coming off, a super successful run on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's got the acting chops for sure.
Totally. I'm actually really curious to see how their dynamic will play out. I mean, Superman and Lois, that's a legendary, it's like the iconic power couple.
Right.
I wonder if they'll stick with that classic dynamic or go for something different this time around.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Every version of them has had a slightly different feel. Like, will they be more like equals in this one? Will Lois be, more independent, less damsel in distress, more the tough reporter we know she can be?
Right. It'll be interesting to see how they interpret that. And it's not just the leads. We've got Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I mean, wow.
That's a bold choice.
I did not see that coming.
That was a surprise.
Plus, there are rumors about all these other DC heroes showing up, like Guy Gardner,
Hot Girl, Mr. Terrific,
Metamorpho, even Crypto the Superdog. What's going on here? Is this just going to be a bunch of cameos, or is there something more to it?
It seems like Gunn's going for a world that already has heroes in it, Superman isn't the only one. And he's like the central figure in the middle of it all.
Right, he's not the only game in town anymore.
Exactly. So it's not going to be another Justice League origin story. It's more about, a young Superman figuring out where he fits in this world that's already full of superpowered people.
That changes the whole dynamic. And speaking of changing the dynamic, there's that rumor going around about Lex Luthor having superpowers in this one.
Oh, yeah. A superpowered Lex Luthor.
I mean, talk about raising the stakes.
That would definitely shake things up. We're talking about a whole different level of threat for Superman to deal with, right? I mean, how's this new Superman who's still figuring things out going to handle that?
It's going to be epic. But with all this talk about epic battles and supervillains, what about Superman's human side? Will we see Clark Kent, at the Daily Planet doing his journalist thing?
Oh, absolutely. Gunn's emphasized that this movie is all about balance. Kryptonian versus human, superhero versus journalist, idealism versus cynicism. We know the Daily Planet will be a big part of the story, and they've even cast Jimmy Olsen and Perry White.
Oh, that's good to hear. That whole Clark Kent thing is a huge part of who Superman is, right? It's not just about the powers. It's about him finding his place in the world as a person. I'm really interested to see how Gunn handles that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Gunn, who's known for, blending humor, action, and heart, how he brings all that to this classic, beloved character.
It's like he's taking all the familiar Superman elements, giving them a fresh coat of paint, modernizing them, but holding on to that core of hope. We've got this tension between nostalgia and something totally new. I have to say, I'm super intrigued.
And that's just scratching the surface. There's so much more we could talk about. I mean, we haven't even touched on the record-breaking trailer or how this all ties into the wider DC universe or Gunn's, a visual style.
Okay, we got to save something for part 2. But before we move on, I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this? Are you excited about this new direction for Superman? Are you skeptical? Let us know. You can share your thoughts with us on social media. Just use the hashtag #DeepDiveSuperman. We'll be right back with more after, well, actually, we're just going to jump right into part 2.
Yeah. Okay, so we're diving right back into this Superman deep dive. And before we went anywhere, we were talking about Gunn's, his new take on Superman and all this buzz surrounding the movie. But, I mean, you can't talk about a new Superman movie without talking about the trailer, right? I mean, that thing broke the internet.
It definitely made a splash.
22 million views in the first 24 hours.
It's a record for
These were
DC.
huge. It shows you there's just so much anticipation, even with, with all the debate and the rumors flying around. And the reactions, I mean, they were intense.
Definitely some strong opinions out there. Some fans are over the moon. They love Cornswat's look. They love the cinematography, the whole vibe. But then you've got people who are, well, they're really not happy about Cavill leaving.
Yeah.
And you can't blame him. I mean, the guy was iconic. It's a lot for anyone to live up to.
Change is always hard, especially when it involves a character, as beloved as a Superman. But what I noticed about the trailer, what really struck me, was this sense of hope.
Oh, yeah.
And grandeur. It felt almost like a return to, a more classic Superman, a more optimistic Superman, which I think is kind of refreshing after, some of the darker DC stuff we've seen lately.
I see what you mean. There's a certain, a lightness to it.
Yeah, real sense of wonder.
And speaking of things that feel, fresh and new, let's talk about the fact that this Superman won't have an origin story.
Yeah.
Gunn's skipping over the whole Krypton exploding baby in a rocket thing. Why do you think he decided to do that?
Well, that's a pretty bold move, right? I mean, he's basically assuming that the audience already knows the whole origin story.
Right.
So he can just jump right into, exploring other sides of the character. He can focus on Superman's internal conflicts, his moral dilemmas, the challenges of actually being Superman in a world that already has superheroes.
Right. It's like, okay, we get it, how he got here.
Yeah.
Now let's see what this Superman does with, the powers he's already mastered. Plus, I mean, honestly, we've seen the origin story, a million times?
A million times, yeah.
It's been done. Maybe it is time to move on to something new.
Exactly. And remember that rumor about, about Lex Luthor having superpowers this time?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that.
Right.
Facing a villain like that might require a Superman who's already been through some stuff, who's already faced his own demons,
Ooh, good point. You're right. It's like, this isn't some rookie Superman just learning how to fly. This is the real deal. And this actually ties into something, something we've been kind of hinting at, this whole idea of a reimagined DC universe. This Superman movie, it feels like it's laying the groundwork for something way bigger.
It definitely seems that way. I mean, we know the Superman is in the same universe as the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. And there are hints that it might connect to upcoming projects like The Authority and Batman, The Brave and the Bold.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
I'm already trying to connect all the dots in my head. Could we see Amanda Waller, Viola Davis's character, pulling strings from the shadows?
Oh, maybe.
Or maybe just, a quick reference to Jason Momoa's Aquaman.
It's fun to think about, right? I mean, the possibilities are, they're endless. And that's what makes this whole new era of DC movies so exciting.
I know. It really feels like Gunn and Safran are taking a page out of Marvel's playbook, building this cohesive universe where all the stories are. They're kind of weaving together to create something even bigger. Do you think DC can pull off that same kind of interconnected storytelling with the way Marvel does it? It's a challenge for sure, but DC has, it has its own rich history and mythology, to draw from. I think the key is it's finding that balance between, learning from what Marvel's done well and carving out its own unique path, its own DC identity. And speaking of unique, let's not forget about Gunn's, his visual style. The guy directed Guardians of the Galaxy. He's not afraid to get weird, to get wacky, even bizarre sometimes. How do you think that's going to, how's that going to translate to the world of Superman?
That's a good question. Gunn's films, they often have this kind of quirky, almost irreverent humor, that really sets them apart. But he also knows how to balance that with heart and genuine emotion. So I think we might see a Superman who's both, powerful and playful. A Superman who can, who can crack a joke while he's saving the world.
A Superman with a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's something I'm really looking forward to. Sometimes, these superhero movies can get a little too serious.
I agree.
It's
Yeah.
good to remember that these stories, they're supposed to be fun, too.
Exactly. And that sense of fun, that lightness, that might be exactly what the DC universe needs right now.
Yeah.
It's a chance to reintroduce these core values of Superman, hope and optimism to a whole new generation.
You just hit on something really important. We talk a lot about Superman's powers, his
Mhm.
strength, his ability to fly, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But his real superpower, it's his unwavering belief in humanity. It's his hope for a better tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. And in a world that often feels so dark and cynical, Superman reminds us that there's still good out there, that it's worth fighting for. He represents the best of what we can be.
He's a symbol of hope,
Yeah.
a beacon of light in the darkness. And honestly, I think in today's world, we need that now more than ever. But here's a question. Will this new Superman, this gunnified version, will he be able to carry the weight of that legacy? Will he be able to inspire, a whole new generation the way Superman has inspired so many people before?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
I guess only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, James Gunn is not afraid to take risks. He pushes boundaries, he tries new things.
He's definitely shaking things up.
He is.
And you know what? Sometimes a little shakeup, that's exactly what you need, especially when you're talking about, an iconic character like Superman. But hey, we've been talking a lot about Gunn's vision and the trailer and the rumors and all that. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, what do you think?
What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah.
Are you excited about this new direction for Superman? What are you hoping to see in this movie? Share your thoughts with us on social media. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we really do.
And we'll be right back. To wrap up this Superman deep dive, we're going to explore what this movie could mean. Not just for the DC universe, but for the whole cultural landscape. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back, and for this final part of our Superman deep dive, I want to kind of shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked about all the rumors, the casting, Gunn's vision for the DC universe,
Yeah.
but let's zoom out a little. Look at the bigger picture. What does this new Superman movie, what does it mean for Superman as a character, for his whole legacy?
For the superhero genre as a whole, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
Superman's been around for what, over 80 years?
Yes, something like that.
And his image has, it's changed with every generation. World War II, the Cold War, even after 9/11.
Mm.
What do you think Superman will represent for this generation?
It's a big question. I mean, we're living in a time where, well, things feel pretty uncertain.
Yeah.
Lots of division, socially, politically. Could this be the Superman that, brings people together, reminds us that we're all human? Or will he be more of a reflection of, all the anxieties we're facing today?
I'm kind of leaning towards the second one, especially with, knowing Gunn's work. He's not afraid to get into complex themes,
Yeah.
flawed characters.
Yeah.
I don't think this Superman is going to be this simple, perfect hero.
No, I don't think so either.
He's going to have depth. He's going to have flaws.
Yeah.
He's going to struggle with stuff. And honestly, I think that makes him, more relatable, more human.
Yeah, absolutely. An all-powerful, perfect Superman might be inspiring, but he's also kind of distant.
Untouchable, yeah.
But a Superman who has doubts, who makes mistakes, who questions what he's doing, that's a Superman we can actually connect with.
That's what makes this so interesting, right? Gunn's not just rebooting Superman. He's rethinking, what does it mean to be a superhero in today's world? It's bold. And I think it's going to, it could really change things for the whole superhero genre.
Yeah, definitely. What if this is a huge success? What if audiences love this new Superman? It could, open the door for more superhero movies that are more, complex, more nuanced. It could change the whole game.
And it all comes back to that decision to drop legacy from the title, right?
Yeah.
This isn't about holding on to the past. It's about, taking risks, forging a new path, embracing the unknown.
And that's a message that goes way beyond superhero movies. It's about all of us, our
Yeah.
willingness to embrace change, to step outside of our comfort zones, to try new things.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought. We know this isn't an origin story, right?
Yep.
So what do you think will be the defining moment for the Superman? What's the challenge that'll push him to his limits, that'll really show us who he is?
It's a great question to think about. And, while we're all waiting for the movie to come out, in 2025, let's remember that Superman's greatest power, it's not the strength, it's not the flying, it's his belief in us, in humanity. It's his hope that things can get better. And in a world that feels, pretty messed up sometimes, that's a message we all need to hear.
Absolutely. And on that note, that's our Superman deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and, well, keep your eyes on the skies, right? You never know when Superman might fly by.